Awesome. Great to see you, Jerry. How are you?
Yeah, great, great. How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
Doing good.
Yeah. Our mutual friend Justin Beam always speaks so highly of you guys. So I sent him a text last night telling him that having this chat, and he was like super excited. So that's
Very
awesome.
cool. Yeah, Justin is fantastic.
Yeah,
really love that guy. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's awesome. How do you guys know each other? Do you just go going back in the horror community?
Yeah. We both wrote for like Fangoria around the same time, and like went to like tons of stuff around the same time. So just became friends, and he actually officiated my wedding last year. So
That's amazing.
the day of our wedding, like the venue dropped out like an hour before, and we were like, "Oh my God, what do we do?" So we were like, "I guess we'll just go to Griffith Park." And so we went there, and Justin was like on FaceTime. We had to hold it up. Yeah, it's nuts.
wow.
That's a great story, though.
Yeah. So I mean, first of all, I mean, I watched I watched your guys' episode today, and it was so intense. Like my wife was watching it with me, and it was just like panic attack central. So good job, Greg.
Awesome.
Wow,
Thank you for saying so. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
One of the things I love about 50 States of Fright is how that it allows filmmakers to kind of embrace their roots and where they came from. I mean, your guys' story is 100% Iowa. Did it feel good to kind of like be able to represent kind of like where you came from in this?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, Bryan and I, we've known each other since we were 11 years old. We grew up in the same state. So when this opportunity came up to tell a story about Iowa, it was just like wearing our heart on our sleeve and being able to pierce it with a knife and make it incredibly scary. And I think for us, we just wanted to think of all the Iowa iconography that we could possibly put into this, whether it was, there's a significant Amish community that's in the area. Mm-hmm. It has massive presence in the wind turbine energy field, but also like leaning into this incredibly scary story that Bryan and I had heard as folklore as kids about like this Amish woman that took her kids out to a bridge to hang them, and one of them survived. And what would it be like if one of them grew up and was trying to, move past that trauma? So that was kind of like the genesis that we had.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking on those kind of iconic elements of Iowa, I mean, it's like the second, I think, largest wind turbine area in the world. I mean, there's over 4,000 last time I checked. What inspired you to kind of like really make that the focal point in some ways? Because it's so interesting.
We were shooting, one of our day jobs was shooting safety videos throughout Iowa earlier in our career. And so we would go to different factories like John Deere and Caterpillar. And one of the jobs ended up having us go to a wind turbine to basically shoot a safety video about how people harness in and do the climb. And the second we stepped foot in the wind turbine, we were just like, oh my gosh, this is like something out of Hitchcock's Vertigo or something. This is terrifying. Yeah. This kind of long descent up into darkness. And that always stuck in our mind. And so when we heard about this show, we were taking a meeting about something else. It was about a feature film. And on our way out the room, Sam and his team, Sam Raimi and his team were like, oh, by the way, we're working on this 50 States of Fright show, and you guys probably wouldn't be interested, but and then he kind of loosely pitched the idea. It's like a horror story in each state. And, that's kind of what we're working on. And we immediately were like, oh, we will be offended if somebody else does the state of Iowa. That just sounds like so much fun. And so immediately when we started thinking of Iowa and scary things from growing up there, this wind turbine idea popped into our heads, because we were just always like, oh, what a perfect kind of Hitchcockian Vertigo-esque setting.
Part of the research process was a lot of fun, because I actually got to climb up into a 300-foot tall wind turbine. And wow. I remember being harnessed in, and they asked, are you scared of heights? And I wanted to scream, yes, I am absolutely horrified. But I knew they would not take me up there if I said that. And so I lied through my teeth. I was like, no, I'm totally good with heights. And it wasn't more than like 15 feet off the ground that my hands just started shaking like they'd never tremored before. And like I'm looking up and I'm like, oh, there's another 285 feet to go. And it was one of the scariest experiences I've ever had. But luckily, like going through that experience, we could feed all of that right into the script and into the execution of this idea.
Mm-hmm. almost there. I mean, your episode really touches on confronting past trauma and events that happened to you, and kind of using the turbines and all the stuff that the character goes through as a way to push her towards not only accepting what happened, but kind of coming to terms with it. It really shows, I mean, in my opinion, the power of the horror genre. Like, it's such a great, rich genre that allows you to take these ideas and these approaches and this metaphorical stuff and really tell excellent stories via the genre. Was it difficult to take those ideas and do them like with a short form approach to storytelling?
Well, first of all, I mean, beautifully said about utilizing the genre to talk about an underlying metaphor, and that's something that we love to do in all of our work. It's tough for us to tell anything in short form. It's its own thing, and we've always admired filmmakers from afar who are able to do a great short film. To distill a story inside a short amount of time is very hard for us. And the whole Quibi of it all, the idea of there being short chapters, granted, I think ours might be the longest, but the idea of doing a story in kind of short pieces, is not second nature to us.
There was a version of this that probably would have run like 40 minutes or so if we had everything that was in the original script, because there's a lot in the prologue section in the first chapter of the Quibi that we would have expanded even further. And I think that was just like, we love marinating an atmosphere and really setting things up, but that's kind of antithetical to a platform where it basically delivers everything in your phone, where it just invites ADD to kind of kick in and you just want to click to the next and the next. And so I think that was the biggest challenge for us, is really, how do you tell a character arc in this story? And it's really tough. It's one of the, I think, biggest challenges that we've ever had. So we're lucky if like people are able to intuit like what the character's triumph is by the end. That really was like our goal, is to do something scary, but also felt very character centric in a short amount of time.
Yeah, definitely, and it works. One of my favorite things about your guys' body of work thus far, whether it's Nightlight or Haunt or, Quiet Place, is you take these ideas and they never feel like gimmicks whatsoever, but they're just like these rich ideas, whether it's telling a film from the point of view of a flashlight, to not being able to make a sound, to like a literal haunt. And with this one, the turbines and that kind of stuff. And it acts as such a good jumping off point to tell a story. I've loved that. It kind of thinks of, how do we tell a story outside of the box? And that's kind of become like a staple in your guys' work in a great way. When writing this one, did you have any kind of like similar films, not as far as like influence, but kind of in your head, that kind of reminded you of the same approach that you wanted to go for? Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned.
Well, yeah, I mean, Vertigo is an influence, but I mean, like, I want to thank you for saying that about our work in terms of like the concept, like the idea of a gimmick is, we're actually not even shy about that word. Like I was opening up my DVDs. We're scouting right now, and I'm like, I flipped to like, we've got like William Castle's 13 Ghosts, like the idea of like taking kind of an outside the box idea that's fun in and of itself, and then attempting to find story and character and let it marinate inside of that gimmick. That's a sweet spot for us. That's
I think like, there's an essence that like, B movies were way better than, the marquee movies that were playing in theaters like way back when. And that there should be nothing shameful at the time of like going to see a Hitchcock film like Psycho, because it was incredibly inventive, even though, probably people at the time were just like, it just feels like it's a serial killer movie. But like the inventive nature of living in the first chapter of Psycho and then all of a sudden switching your protagonist, like that to us, like as kids watching that movie, just felt really revolutionary. And so I think we love just living in this genre sandbox and then figuring out what has been done before. And you either lean into that and upend the convention, or you just try to find a new corner of that sandbox entirely. And I think that's always what's been exciting to us, not just as filmmakers, but as audience members too.
Yeah, definitely. I do have to ask, Teza Farmiga and Ron Livingston are absolutely just great in this. What led you guys to cast them? Because I mean, not just individual performance, but there's a lot of really good chemistry between the two.
Oh, great. Yeah.
That's
well,
great.
we felt like Thaisa really could play this character who has to be transformative, who is really good at hiding something underneath the surface. And at the same time, we've just been such big fans of her work for so many years now. And Ron was kind of the same way, where we knew the type of character that we needed for to play this character of Blake. And Ron, not only was he perfect for it, he's also from the state of Iowa as well. He's one of our like favorite actors from the area. And it just felt kind of like the perfect marriage of material with him.
And with Ron in particular, like we love in any movie where you take not the funny, I don't want to like, it sounds reductive to call him the funny guy, but he is hilarious, and he has been very funny and a lot of brilliant comedy movies like Office Space and many others. And so like we just love like anytime like the comedian gets scared or gets serious, that's always such a great turn for us. It makes everything feel a little bit more heightened. But then more than that, he's just like a great natural actor. He's just very real and believable. So it's that was actually like kind of like bucket list material for us to get to work with him, because he's been on our list for so long.
But I think both of them, like they really love the physicality of it. The fact that they had to, not physically climb a 300-foot tall turbine, but this 40-foot tall structure that we created on a stage. And they weren't scared of it, but they were happy just to go all out for any of the stunts and such.
Yeah, definitely. They did a great job. Well, I won't take up much more of your time. I just had one more kind of question or yeah, definitely. My favorite thing about your guys' social media presence is that you kind of shun this everything I do is great mentality that is just rampant on social media. Like you guys almost highlight your past rejections more. And I think that speaks volumes and helps up and coming writers and directors see that, you know what, there is a process and you have to go through a lot of hoops to make it and do successful projects. Is that important to you guys, or what kind of inspires that approach to be like, hey, you have to go through hell sometimes?
I think like one of the things that like inspires it that I can think of off the top of my head is seeing this, the making of Magnolia that Paul Thomas Anderson has. And it's so honest and so like just shows the wear and tear of what making a movie really can do to a person versus like the glossy EPKs that you usually see on DVDs. And I think for us, like we take that, in a way that we're hard on ourselves. Like we don't think the last thing that we made is anywhere close to like what we had hoped. Like we're proud of everybody's achievement, but at the same time, like we always want to do better. And so what we're trying to learn, and I think come to terms with just in life and in careers, is that the entire, ability to aspire, the film industry in general, it's made up of a lot of failures, and you shouldn't feel like failures make you less of a person or less confident. It's part of the process. And I think the sooner that people are able to acknowledge that, the sooner they're able to learn from that and hopefully be at ease with what they're trying to do and what they're trying to put out into the world, and that it's not a reflection of inadequacies.
And I think everyone in the film business feels that, like, it doesn't matter what corner you're in. It can be writing, directing. You could be a grip on a movie set. You could be a PA. You could be a film journalist. Like, there's something about this business that's so it is lots of people. It's a privilege to work in the business in any capacity, and because it's a path that a lot of people move towards, it requires a lot of failure, and so it just makes us, I think, the longer we've been professionals and the more that we've seen successful people around us take their knocks and keep going, it's been I don't know, it's been therapeutic in many ways. And so hopefully we're just trying to share with everybody else that don't be worried if things don't go your way, because that's for everybody. That's even Steven Spielberg and whoever, the biggest giants in the business still hit their head every day, just like everybody else.
Yeah, definitely. And it's definitely inspiring for you guys to do that. So yeah. So anyways, well, thank you guys. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Like I said, almost there. I mean, it's such a blast. I really think people are going to really dig it. So good job, guys.
Thanks, man.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jerry. Really appreciate talking to you.